Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight for Assembly Online. It's been in a while since we've congregated here. Just checking the sound's coming through, like the good old times. Yep, that's working fine. Great. As I said in the comments at the start, do say hello in the chat if you'd like to. The chat should be on the side of the YouTube window. Just let us know who you are and where you're signed in from. It's always nice to know who's listening out there and watching. This is Henry, hosting from Norwich for the Assembly House Trust. I can see Gil from Lewes, Cormac Oidwell from Harliez, excuse my pronunciation, West York, Linda from Norwich, Liz McGowan from Spratts Green in Norfolk, Jackie Jones from Norwich. I'm looking forward to hearing this virtual opening. Yeah, we're looking forward to showing it to you too. Hi Mum, Tessa, logged in. And another Tessa from New York City. As I talk, I'm sure a few more will trickle in, so it's always nice to see that. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm excited for this virtual opening and also a discussion with the artists for the new exhibition at GroundWork Gallery in Kings Lynn. We're very excited, very pleased that all the artists could join us for this event, along with Veronica Sekules, the curator at GroundWork. I'm not going to talk too much about the exhibition there, and I'll let Veronica give an introduction to the show. The show is open now and open till the 18th of December, so do go and visit it. Just see Ute from Sudlon in Germany also tuned in. Nice worldwide audience tonight. The show is called Nature's Mysterious Networks, Mushrooms, Mycelia and Yeasts, as I'm sure a lot of you who've tuned in are well aware. There'll be presentations from each of the artists lasting about 5 or 10 minutes, followed by a space for comments and questions at the end. So if you do have any comments or questions during the event, do post them in the chat on YouTube, and I'll make sure they're forwarded at the end, either to individual people or to the whole group. So yeah, I'll see you at the end for a little bit more chat. But right now, I'm going to make Veronica Sekules visible.
Hello, good evening. So I wish I could see you all. I hope you can see me. I'm going to give you an introduction to this fantastic exhibition. And in order to do that, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Oops, no, I'm not. I'm going to start at the beginning. There we go. So here you can see what people will see outside on approaching the gallery. Our great big sign, everybody's names, and the window, actually an unwelcome selfie in there as well, Nature's Mysterious Networks. It took us ages to come up with this title, because we wanted it to signal that mushrooms were above ground, below ground, and part of very extensive networks, but also we have a strong component about yeasts. So it, as you will see as we unfold the contents, it is full of spectacle and experiment on a large scale and a small scale. And so here we have Chris Drury's magnificent Cloud of Thorns at the center of the exhibition. And behind you see his drawings and network, and you'll hear about later. So I've gone slightly blank about everybody's titles, so forgive me because you'll hear all the detail later on. Alison Council's work in the background. And here I'm sitting next to Dust to Dust, which is painted on the wall. You see that at the head there. And there again. and Alison Council on the right, and on the left, Micah Baum, who's made this whole massive experiments with scobies, which you'll hear about later on, and that's her projection. And then her little grid of them, of experimental colours of little scobies, next to Chris Drury's spore grid, which is a big assemblage on the wall. And Alison again. And here in the front window, our bookshop and a few of Alison's works just at the front there. Then we've got Alexandra Steiner, whose work is shown on a projection in the stairwell. I'm going to say it, for Brexit reasons largely, we couldn't import her paintings. It's become so unbelievably complicated and expensive. In the end, we decided that showing projections would be a second best, but still give a sense of the luminosity and beauty of her work. And she will talk about that later. And then upstairs, in the upstairs room, we have a lot more work by Micah Baum. And here we've got Moire Williams's launch rooming program and her fantastic crunchy pillow, which she will talk about, full of incredible plants. And then Micah Baum has got some photographs of scobies. She's, as you will hear, they appear in a number of different forms. It's a very transformative process she goes through. And then also Rachel Horton-Kitchlew, another great experimenter and transformer. And here we've got her urban fungarium and some biophilic works made from fungi and agricultural waste. And there on the table, you see various different experiments. And then in the window, Micah Baum's jars of her SCOBY farm, her jars of scobies in wonderful colored liquids. And there they are along the windowsill. So I think that is my brief tour of the gallery. And it's not a large place, but it's full of variety. And now we're going to hear from each of the artists about their particular content, and then you will get the titles and the details as they should be. So I'm handing over now to Chris Drury. And Chris, here we are installing your work. There are two images showing you and Micah installing your work. So would you like to take over?
Hello, everybody. It's just a wonderful show to have been part of, and thank you for Micah for helping me put up Cloud of Thorns. I became interested in mushrooms right from the beginning of my career, really. I was at Camberwell in London, and I was reading John Cage, and he was a great mushroom addict, and I used to go up to Epping Forest to look for them with all the Italian restaurant owners, and I just got hooked because I just found them fascinating things, both the ones you could eat and the ones that kill you. So they've become a part of what I do overall. How do I change slides, Veronica?
You asked me to do it.
Yeah. Can I do it? How would I do it?
We need Henry to sort that out, I think. Yeah, just ask me to do it, Chris.
Okay, right. Yeah. So here we are again, putting them up. That's the spore grid, which is, they're made from very, very small 1 centimeter fungi put onto a glass 35mm slide, sandwiched between glass really, and then put into a projector and projected onto light sensitive paper and printed out. I think there are 35 of them, yeah. So they're all different and they're all very small, so they're blown up large. And you can't do that anymore. You have to do it digitally. But the quality of the image was extraordinary, I felt at the time. Okay, next slide. And so this work, I've made a number of these. I was invited to Nevada to do a show at the Nevada Museum of Art in Reno. And of course, Nevada is where the test site is. So I became involved in people working on a test site, and I just wanted to make a mushroom cloud, and I made that. The one for that show was made from sagebrush, and then later from a desert thorn. And I've made them in different venues, different scales, from different materials like dried mushrooms. But this one, I like the idea of the fact that mushrooms can feed you, kill you, alter your mind, and cure you. They're medicine. So what they do is they break down dead matter back into soil, on which new life can grow, so that they are life, death, and regeneration. So there's this quality of life and death in all of these works that fascinate me. And the idea of this is a poisonous Amanita virosa mushroom, which is really poisonous. And it's made of thorns, which, they too are poisonous. It's blackthorn that's stripped. So there's this spikiness to it, but also it's this extraordinary cloud-like image. This one, that one particular one, can we just go back again, Veronica? That particular one, I was asked for a gallery in Switzerland to make an installation, so I made it for that gallery. And I made it so that you could alter the strings, and so it could fit any space. But unfortunately, the strings here were about 3 centimeters too short, and so we had to add to them, which took a long time. It took 2 days to put up with Micah. Okay. So there's the spore grid that you can see. Okay, on with that. We've talked about that one. As part of that desert show in Reno, there was a woman at the test who was working on the test site, and I went down to meet her. She was a soil biologist. And I said, what's growing in the soils of the test site? I sent this question down before I went down there. And she came up with this image. We went to lunch and she came up with this image and said, aren't they similar, these two? The one on the right is called Microcoleus vaginata. And on the left, that is an image from space of the test site, Ground Zero, where they exploded 100 atmospheric bombs. And that organism survived those atomic bombs. But the thing about them is, this is one of the first organisms on Earth that learned how to turn CO2 into oxygen, so that every bit of life you see on the planet is down to this plant and its relatives. They're something like 2 billion years old. So that's an extraordinary thing. And the one on the right is the gene, a partial gene sequence of it, done in, stenciled in test site Earth. Okay. This is called Amanita phalloides, which is the death cap mushroom. It's a spore print in the middle, and then the writing on the outside, which actually follows what the spore print is doing. It just says Amanita phalloides, Amanita phalloides. So I've made a number of these too, and particularly about the poisonous ones, but I've made them with all sorts. Okay. And finally, well, not finally, Dust to Dust, which is part of the, we die and we go back into the earth, into dust and ashes, and so that whole sequence of things, the mushroom and dying, is a part of this. So that stencil that is painted onto the wall with dust and ashes, and I've made that in a number of places, in a number of scales, with a number of different sorts of dust and different sorts of ashes. The dust actually here came from the extractive industry show that Veronica put on. Okay. And finally, I think this is the last one. This is Cloud 9, made in a little Perspex box And it's I think there's something like 1,800 magic mushrooms. Well, I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, yes, they're magic mushrooms, and it took 2 years to make, because the first year there weren't many growing. I couldn't find enough, so I had to wait another year for a better year for mushrooms. And they're dried and then dipped in sealer, because you can get 7 years in jail for using these things. So I had one tested in a lab, and they couldn't find any active ingredient. So I think I'm covered, and Veronica is covered too. So, and of course they, you listen to Paul Stamets on the internet about what mushrooms, what the magic mushrooms can do to the mind. They open up. I mean, there's a whole theory that that our language came from stoned apes who because they're connected. It's a connective kind of thing in the brain. The thought is that it may have allowed human beings to get language much faster than they would have done. So that's basically my part of the show.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, wonderful. And it's such a joy to be sitting here with Dust to Dust and all the other words, just fantastic. So Alison Council. So Alison has shown before at GroundWork Gallery as part of another exhibition involving nature. And she had a few works there about fungi. And so I went back to her and said, could I show them again? And she said, oh, she's made a whole lot of new work. So she's going to talk about those now. Alison.
Hello, hi. It's great to be here and great to be part of this exhibition. I feel I know so little about fungi myself. As I say, all the work that I've produced in the exhibition has been specifically for this exhibition. I've always loved mushrooms and I've always loved eating them, etc. But I've never done a lot of kind of research into them particularly. And the two images you can see on the screen are two of the ones from the exhibition I did previously, On the Edge from Transgression to Frontier. And it was just because, if I say a little bit about the background of my work before, I do a lot of walking and just kind of being in nature is just part of how I kind of gather inspiration and information. I often collect forage pieces of bark, and sometimes for the Edgelands piece as well, I collected bits of rust and brick and things that were integrated into pieces. And I suppose I'm thinking a little bit about the fragility of nature and the preciousness of it. And I'd kind of use these shells of bark as a sort of a vessel to communicate this, and I made I sort of reinforced the pieces. I sort of put them on a pedestal so they're easier to kind of pick up and kind of build strength into them. And I kind of, for my thinking for this exhibition here, was just the whole idea that kind of mushrooms, fungi they're just part of the life cycle of nature. We don't really know it's happening underneath, but obviously we wouldn't function without it. Trees wouldn't function without it. It's just sort of vitally there. So I was kind of using the idea of the fungi and lichens and things, sort of protecting the bark and protecting nature and being a really a big part of it. I started using this material called jesmonite, which is a sort of an eco-friendly alternative to sort of plaster and things. It's water-based. I just mix very small quantities of it, and I sort of just paint it onto sort of frameworks. And I love the sort of, it sort of feels sort of, it looks sort of soft and sort of a bit chalky and a bit sort of mushroomy, marshmallowy to me. And because I sort of turn them over and I let the material drip and dribble, it kind of has a feeling of kind of growth and kind of an important part of how I visualize fungi to be. I mean, one of the most things that I never knew before was actually finding out that lichens are actually this symbiotic partnership between fungi and algae. I never knew that before. So that was one thing that really kind of blew my mind away. But the next slide. So on this particular piece here, which is the white wire polypore, I mean, all the, as I say, they're all from my imagination, these pieces, but I've kind of each of those polypore, there's lots of little fractures and things in the bark, which is quite sort of fragile. And they're almost acting as like kind of staples behind, and they're kind of holding the piece together. This piece is probably one of the bigger pieces. It's probably about 50 centimeters tall. It's all iron wire. I love iron wire because it kind of rusts and things. And to me, rust is almost like a living thing. It's a sort of almost, so the kind of rust is coming through on the iron wire there. So this is the kind of talking a little bit about the relationships between fungi and trees and the kind of communication that they have together. The next one. I suppose also here I was thinking a little bit about the kind of mycorrhizal networks under the trees as well. So it's a bit diagrammatic. So things are kind of moving along underneath and kind of growing up and relating and kind of forming strength and kind of working around the tree itself. It's almost, I almost see it like a kind of kintsugi for kind of tree bark almost, you know, to kind of protect the fragileness of the bark itself. Next. This one here is a grey wire polypore with blue fairy fungi. I started maybe getting a little bit whimsical with it as well. I don't know, with the, I suppose I love micro worlds. When I'm out and about, I'm always also looking at, I love those sort of little marshy sorts of swampy bits with little bits all kind of growing together. And I take lots of photographs and things of these little kind of, little micro worlds as I see them. And I suppose the things aren't never growing as individual things often. You know, there's so many different types of species and things all kind of living together. So I was kind of also trying to bring that into the pieces a little bit. You know, so there was a mixture of fungi. So there's bracket fungi and little sort of fairy fungi working together on this piece. And again, underneath you can see the mycelium and underneath the holding, supporting the piece together. Next one. And this is a tall piece again, very similar, with fungi coming out from the fairy fungi, a green one coming out from the outside, with some rhizoids kind of growing up around the outside. Again, with this jesmonite just kind of strengthening it and kind of bringing some kind of movement into the piece itself. Alongside these pieces, I also did quite a few pieces in at the same time in kind of petri dishes. I love what you call it, labware. So I did start making quite a few, and I made about, I don't know, about 16 of these different ones. I haven't exhibited them in the exhibition, but they were kind of sort of fueling my sort of thoughts as I was making these other pieces. And again, there's the sort of, often say, for example, I've got one here, and you can sort of, the two fungi share their kind of mycelium beneath them type of thing. So yeah, so it's kind of, I still feel like I'm just sort of beginning it almost, you know, there's so much more to kind of explore, and it certainly is something that I plan to continue with. So I think that's it. I always go at 100 miles per hour when I get going.
Thank you very much, Alison. I realise I didn't introduce people properly at the beginning of each talk. So I'm going to do like they do in bands and say, when they say and on the drums and on the guitar. So Chris, back to Chris first. You'll have gathered what a great man Chris is. He has the most extraordinary international track record, really intrepid, really inventive, a wonderful beacon. And so many people have come to me to say he's their favorite artist. So Chris, you have very many fans. And Alison is based in Sheffield and taught for many years at Sheffield in the art school. She's, I think, a graduate at the Royal College, a very experimental worker with metals and on this incredibly delicate, beautiful scale, but also she makes jewelry. So thank you, Alison. And as we said, she has exhibited here before and I guess might become a bit of a regular here. So now, thank you very much, both of you. We're now going to go to Moire Williams, who's coming to us from the coming to us from Budapest, but normally would be coming to us from the United States. And Moira is a disabled Indigenous artist, disability cultural activist, and dreamer, weaving together cross-disability justice, gatherings, and arts with ecosomatics and queer ecologies. An immense privilege to have Moira with us, and she's got some extraordinary contributions to make. And here we've got her launch rooming upstairs, and I think we're going to get some insight and snippets from that. So Moira, can I hand over to you?
Hi, everybody. Akahuo Wishi Inki. That is an Algonquin, Lenape Algonquin word. That is the phrase actually meaning place of mushrooms. And I'm super excited and honored to be in this place of mushrooms with all of you and all these amazing artists. And thank you so much for hosting us, Veronica, in this show, and also for Assembly for hosting us. Thank you. So my work, I'm going to be sharing a couple snippets from an ongoing project that I'm doing that I'm co-curating, and my work is often co-created with disabled people, cross-disability community, and cross-disability community means anyone who self-identifies as disabled, and it's a solidarity way of thinking, a disability justice way of thinking of we move together or we don't move at all. And cross-disability means, for example, I have autistic, I have a brain injury, and several people who are doing these descriptions who are part of this ongoing archive launch room have different disabilities. So we're all coming together to create this archive. A lot of the work that I do also focuses on these ideas, these efforts that has an agenda to get disabled people access to the environment, whether it's citizen science work, whether it's going to the park, whether it's touching the water, or being able to talk about plants that they love, and here that's about mushrooms. And some of the images that I'm using in this work are images that are bog and marsh mushrooms located in tribal lands that my family have foraged from for a millennium, and that I've learned from my mother and my grandfather. And when my mother died, my siblings and I looked into her journals and noticed all these great spots that she was talking about where we had foraged together, and it brought back a lot of memories. And for the past 5 years, I've been revisiting many of those spots and taking photos of mushrooms that she's mentioned. And I also came to this realization that she and my grandfather and her mother were doing image description of these mushrooms. So that made me think about, well, yes, of course, this is an ancient form of communication. And image description is when people describe the image in front of them. It's also known as alt text. For example, I don't know how to get me on the screen, but I would do a self description. But right now I'll look at the image that has a blue screen in the center with it's got a black frame. It has this orange kind of blobby thing in the corner of the blue screen that looks like French fries. They're very tubular and it's in a mass. And then that image, that screen looks like a monitor and it's on a white block. And in front of that white block is a pillow. And that pillow is part of the work. And the pillow that I'll describe has silk organza around it now. Thank you, Veronica. And it's stuffed with all these materials that are necessary and in the network, the care network, the decay network, the communication network with mushrooms in wetlands and marshes and pine barrens along the New York and New Jersey coastline. And that includes cattails and 3 different kinds of marsh grasses, basswood leaves, 3 different kinds of oak leaves, some ash leaves, branches, and a couple of goldenrods and other native flowers. So the idea of this pillow that is in front of the monitor right now is that it's disability centered as well, because it's very sensorial. And that brings in this idea of the tactile sense. You sit on it, it's very crunchy. You can rub against it, you can slightly see things and rub your hands along it. It also breaks down like a mushroom would be breaking things down. So it's like this playful kind of element that's also about care and comfort and an invitation. And so to just stop talking, I will show you some of the works that are part of this video that range in ideas of communication and audio description and image description. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I can't share my screen until you click off, Veronica.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Hi, everybody. I apologize. It seems not to want to go into screen broadcast. Oh, I think it's got the countdown came on now. We're good. Yeah. Okay. This looks good. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the first
what do you
video.
want me to show? Just watch, man. Oh my God! What is that? Oh my God! Oh my God! Is that a tree? Oh my God! I thought my hair was. That looked like my hair I picked out last week. Oh my God! What is this? Oh my God! Who is making these crazy creations? Oh my God! Oh, it looks like. Oh my God! It look like cotton is picking up my. Oh, is that Deirdre? Oh my God!
And this one I'm going to play again and read it out loud so you can see the difference. The small cat was on its back, offering its naked laminals out towards me. Come close and dance with me in the small forest made up out of pink lung wings. Between each bowl lies the track out of this world and into this world.
Sitting on a soft patch of spiny, lush grass lies a small caterpillar-shaped mound called the cordyceps, or as I've known them, dongchongchou. When I was a child, my mom would make soups with these fungus, and I still remember the wonderfully earthy and nutty aroma that would fill the kitchen. In this photo, it appears fossilized, speckled black and turmeric in color with segmented ridges that run its curled body. In the middle, a thin bundle of straw-like strips form a nest from which 2 orange sprouts emerge. They resemble a Q-tip dyed Fanta orange, with bulbous ends speckled with bumps that remind me of taste buds.
Cuando te aprecié por primera vez a la distancia mientras esperaba el tren, te vi sobresalir entre rocas y grises, como un fantasma, una presencia sutil y delicada. Entre más te observaba, más me adentraba en mí. Tan suave y pequeño, tan fuerte y resiliente como yo. Me pregunto cómo podías haber nacido y crecido con tanta dureza y suciedad alrededor. Pero mírame a mí. Igual que tú, soy fantasma. No somos carne, no somos vegetales. Ambos esperamos a todo, a nada, cada día, todo el día. Cada día te vengo a saludar. Buenos días y buenas noches. Traes belleza al entorno. Eres único, mi pequeño hongo fantasma. Eres fuerte, eres hermoso, eres real. Te he imaginado, te he visto en mis sueños. It was one of my difficult days when I first appreciated you from a distance while waiting for the train. I saw you stand out among rocks and grays like a ghost, a subtle and delicate presence. The more I watched you, the more I got into myself, so soft and small, so strong and resilient, like me. I wonder how you could have been born and grown with such toughness and dirt around. But look at me, just like you. I'm a ghost. We are not meat. We are not vegetables. We both wait. Everything, anything, every day, all day. Every day I come to greet you. Good morning and good night. You bring beauty to the environment. You are unique, my little ghost mushroom. Are you strong? Are you beautiful? Are you real? Do you imagine? Have I seen you in my dreams?
Hi, thanks. So that's a variety of the different ways that people are telling stories and describing images. And the collaborative, the co-creation part is the part where I invite people, disabled people, to describe one of the photos that's in this whole catalog that I've created. And then I work up the animation and what goes with it. So the first person was Frederick C. And then the following artist was Petra Kuppers, and then Sean Lee, and then Christopher Nunez. And the other thing about this project, which is vitally important, is not only making the ecology more accessible to disabled people, is the access intimacy and the ecological intimacy in these works for people sharing some of their dreams, like Christopher just did, and intimate things about seeing a mushroom every day, but also hearing voices that we don't always hear in audio description. Like Sean, when Sean says "gongkompo," which is Korean for the dish that his mother used to make with him, and then just Frederick's really vibrant, excited, young voice is very different too than what we normally hear in disability kind of audio description. So those are the other things that I'm working with and working toward. And this is, again, is an ongoing project. So if anyone wants to describe a mushroom and get involved, they're always welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk with them. But I think that's it for me. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Moira, for bringing something very distinctive to the whole project. There was at the opening, there was a little boy who was completely entranced and watched every moment of the video. It was marvelous to see him. So,
oh, that's fun to hear.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It's very absorbing. So now we're going to hear from Alexandra Steiner, and I'm going to try and get the presentations back again. Oops. So Alexandra actually was at the beginning of the planning of this whole thing. In fact, she helped initiate it, along with Chris Drury. I think you appeared here at about the same time, and there was a real kind of synergy about that. Alexandra is a scientist, and we've all learned a tremendous amount from her every time we've had meetings. She just is so full of fascinating information, and she will know the name of the poisonous mushroom, of the hallucinogenic mushroom. And I think we're planning another event later to talk about the red spotted mushroom. But anyway, we'll
fly agaric.
Yes, fly agaric, indeed, among other things. But so I'm going to try and get the screen back and get your images. And so we're going to start here. So
yeah, so I'm Alexandra Steiner, or short for friends, Ellie, which in the later course of this presentation might be important, this association to Alice. Yeah, I'm a biologist and I'm an artist from Austria. Veronica has slight family connections to Austria too, so we met and had immediate connection. Yeah, Austria is on the continent, which is not like really to point out, but on the continent there seems to be a very long and old folklore still. Well, it is sort of forgotten, but there is a renaissance also, and especially in the mountains, Alps, in the Alpine countries, or in the eastern countries, there is quite well, there's still this connection to the old stories, old legends, and old fairy tales and myths. Yeah, so this is the one thing. This is the painting that I call Planet Mycelia. And yeah, it shows, or I want to express different things about it. First of all, I grew up with mushrooms. I grew up with foraging. I grew up in the forest, thanks to my dad, who took us out whenever he could. And I think I learned the quintessential things of life from my dad. Thank you, Dad. and we would always forage mushrooms. He would teach me like really how to hunt or forage, and also show me the different qualities of places for the different mushrooms. So I also, from times immemorial that I can think of, I grew up with the forest soil, and in my memory there is this, these white threads of mycelia that I then found out as a biologist, the proper names for everything phenomenal in nature. And Planet Mycelia, this painting is basically the homage to planet Earth being an organism, a sentient being, and fungi being the neuronal web or the sentient membrane that stretches across the globe, stretches across the planet. A little detailed information to Greece. According to scientists, fungi are more than 2 billion years old. Yeah, so they, together with the microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, also very important vectors for evolution, are the oldest life forms on this planet. Mycelia fungi, that's a little detail for Alison. The mushroom, the actual mushroom that you see on the surface, that's popping up, yeah, that we eat then, is just the fruit body of the actual mushroom, which is the mycelium. The mycelium is the mushroom, the fungus, yeah. And these nice little, colored, different shaped, different poisonous fruit bodies that pop up and that we like to think of, they're growing fast. They are just the like genitals, yeah, fruit bodies like our human bodies. We can sort of always find parallels in nature, yeah. Yeah, so this is Planet Mycelia. The for me highlight in my sort of artistic approach is the technique here that are developed over many, many years. And I'm coming from basically cave art. As a biologist, long ago, when I decided to study biology, I wanted to tell really, I wanted to understand the story of our planet. So I wanted to also be able to tell the story of the planet with my art. And I very soon adopted the technique of collecting soil from everywhere, because I think that soil, I think some of my artist colleagues has mentioned information, yeah. So soil for me is full of information of billions of years in the making. And also mushrooms or fungi that are so old and have endured so many massive extinctions and started or initiated evolution to start again. Yeah, mycelia also collecting information. So mycelia, and this painting expresses it the best I can, is this membrane covering the planet that is really an interface or a sentient membrane that is intelligent. Yeah. So yeah, let's leave it here. I think the other paintings will go more into detail. This is so according to the technique. Yeah, I'm coming from the direction of science. So I had in my scientific career a period where I sat for long years in front of the microscope. And I did ethnobotanical research. I microscoped plant material and pollen and spores. So I got into these very micro worlds that mushrooms, fungi, and microorganisms can lead you to, or will lead you to. And with the help of the microscope, you can't do that as in a normal context unless you take psychedelic mushrooms or plants. But a microscope to me is like a zoom into invisible world. Yeah, we can zoom into what is still material, but we can't see it. It just defies the human sense. So what I also do in my art and with my art is trying to go into realms that are invisible and translate them, make them visible to people, or make them perceptible in a way. Yeah, so again to the technique, because this will be part of all of my artwork. I'm coming from, as I always wanted to tell the story of the planet, there is immediately this connection of, okay, human ancestors 30,000 years ago, how did they live? How did they perceive the world, the earth, the cosmos? Yeah. And I very quickly got into cave art and the fascination of what people 30,000 years ago tried to express. And the handprint is one of the special features that you will find all over the world. Yeah, in every sort of cave art context, you will find handprints. So this is what I took on. And when I worked at university and had to do a lot of microscopic work, scientific art is very much different from intuitive art. So I was not really happy to just take a photo of what I saw through the lenses. And my then 3-year-old daughter she always played around. I sort of followed up the tradition of my dad to take her into the forest every day. So she played with a lot of materials, and one day she came up with these handprints on the tiles of our bathroom, because she had played around with pigments and colors and bath foam, and yeah, so she developed some sort of interesting structural technique that I then took on. And I can also say I copied my daughter. And developed this into hand-printed, multi-layered oil paintings. So this, for example, can you go back, please, Veronica, to the dark one? Because this is the connector for me to the quantum world. Yeah, this invisible quantum field. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's more and more presented in the scientific world. Dark matter, dark energy, everything that we don't see but is there and makes sort of the basis of everything. Yeah, our atoms, for example, are not matter. They are actually 99% nothingness. Yeah, and only the electrons and and neutrons and protons moving so fast, giving the impression of. So this is this painting connects really to this invisible realm that we are surrounded and we are made of, basically. And again, you find behind matter and behind these approaches of form as a universal cosmic primordial pattern, you will find mycelia. Yeah. So the mycelial structure and this mycelial grid seems to be a basic building block of the whole universe that you will fractally, like it repeats itself everywhere you look. You can look into through a microscope, you can look into a telescope and into the world and out into the cosmos. You can look inside your own cells. You can look into your own body, yeah, and you will always, at a certain level, find these mycelial grid structures that are layered. Yeah. Thank you. So this is the cosmic grid, and this should connect to, I don't know if anybody of you has ever heard of a microbiome, the human microbiome. So all the myriads, billions, trillions of fungi, actually, and microorganisms that we host in our bodies. So we are microbiomes, we are cosmoses. What's the plural of cosmos? Don't know. Cosmi? Don't know.
Cosmi.
Anyway, so this is a look into a body, for example, or you will find a mycelial pattern when you just close your eyes standing in the sun and you press gently on your eyeballs. You will see the grid of the retina. Yeah, so you can all try that. So what I'm trying to express really is this cosmic universal pattern of mycelia that is obviously a sort of biomatrix where everything is created from. Yeah. Yeah, and go into any realm you want, go deeper and deeper, and you will definitely, I promise you, I guarantee you will get to this state of mycelial forms and structures. The next one will also show this. Here we have this, and a lot of people.
Sorry, which one do you want?
The blue one.
The blue one. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
This one.
Yeah.
A lot of people associate this one with water. You know, when especially seawater or pool water. I don't know if it's the chloride or I would rather say the salt content. When sunlight gets into shallow seawater, you have these grids again, yeah. Which is showing me that again, water is, for us, we don't really give much thought about it, but water is invisible. Basically, water is such a mysterious element. And one of your last exhibitions was on water, Veronica, wasn't it? Still, we don't know. We are based on water. Our bodies consist of nearly 80% water. We take it so granted, and we know not. I would say tip of the iceberg. We know hardly anything about water, yeah, and about the phenomenal qualities. So this is a connection to, again, invisible water, but also the honey fungus. I'm sure all of you know the honey fungus, which is called a pest for the human forest manager. Let's put it there. Nature has a role for each and everything. So the honey fungus plays the role of a sort of late. Yeah, okay, I'm hurrying. Yeah, so honey fungus is not a pest. Nature uses it as a corrector if trees are not capable to grow anymore, or the wrong trees grow. So the last painting is bioluminescent, because the honey fungus, originally Mycelium, is also bioluminescent. This is again, just Mycelia out of the organic world. Let's just go to the last one. So I always play around with Mycelia, and I try to really tell the story and understand the story of planet Earth, and fungi, and the connection to also human beings. Only just to mention the painting behind me, because that should have been, or could have been, part of the show or the presentation. This is just a hint to the connection between humans, or the human species, and psychedelic mushrooms, and the folklore stories behind. For example, in 3 days we have Halloween, or I don't know if you have a name for it in the UK. I don't think
Halloween.
Really. And this comes from the Celtic tradition, and there is a whole story behind it, again touching mushrooms. Fly agaric, just because you mentioned it, this is the Christmas story mushroom behind it. All the colors from Christmas that we know, the traditional colors, white, red, they come from this old ancient tradition from Siberia.
Don't give too much away now, Ali, because we probably will come back to that. And we don't want to give the whole story away.
Yeah.
So
thank you
so
much.
Once again, a wonderful, fascinating contribution from you, and so full of knowledge.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So now we're going to go over to Rachel Horton-Kitchlew, who's another person with extraordinary knowledge and a great experimenter. So she's founder of the online research project, the Urban Fungarium, which has an outlet here in physical form. And she studied originally design at Goldsmiths, but is passionately interested in sustainable alternatives and innovating with biomaterials. She's also an active member of the Green Party under councillor, so she has a political side too, which I'm sure feeds into the way she sees her work. So Rachel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Veronica, and what a joy to hear everyone talk about their work and see it again. It's been so great to be part of this exhibition, and I've really enjoyed it all. So for Nature's Mysterious Networks, I am exhibiting a variety of nature-inspired forms. I've been mushroom obsessed since studying at Goldsmiths in London. Their beauty, their deadliness, as Chris was saying, and how they sort of appear overnight, seemingly from nothing, in the most unlikely places. And there's a stink horn underneath my trampoline, which is fascinating. So the biophilic design wall panels, do we have a close-up of those, Veronica? The ones at the back, the two squares, perhaps? That's great.
Well, that's...
Back one.
Well, that one, the back one.
Yeah, just go back one. Perfect. So the biophilic design wall panels at the back are created from mycelium, the underground network and the roots of the fungus we've heard a lot about. They're designed, the shape I designed was to mimic the underside of the gills of the mushrooms. Biophilia being the important connection between humans and nature. And so the mycelium is the vegetative part of the fungus, the root-ish. Not only are they very important to our ecosystems and soil systems, but also mycelium can make an excellent alternative to plastic and a great compostable material when paired with waste. What more could you want in a plastic crisis and a climate crisis? And also there are 50,000 types of mushrooms so that we know about currently. So surely the possibility is endless. So mycelium made materials are fire retardant and water resistant. So these panels, and they can be grown quickly in different shapes and are fantastic alternatives to polystyrene packaging materials and decorative creations. And they're made with the reishi mushroom, part of the Ganoderma family. I like the idea of mushrooms being disguised as artworks. Sometimes I think people in the UK have a fear of mushrooms or a suspiciousness of fungi. And I think that might be because mushroom picking hasn't been included in our childhoods as much as it has been in other Eastern European countries, perhaps. So the hexagons, please, Veronica, next slide. So these, alongside the biophilic wall panels, I'm exhibiting these hexagons, the hexagon wall decorations made from the exact same material, and they're all grown individually in their own molds. You can tell by the photo that some of them have a different sort of grain and a different sort of color. Even though they were grown in the exact sort of shape and the same sort of molds, they still come out looking completely different, some of them. And that's just nature, and they aren't uniform, but that's the beauty in that. And there's an importance of appreciating the imperfections and unpredictability of nature. So as makers and designers, we must appreciate that and bring that into our designs and the imperfections, and create the end of the product that we're creating in the forefront of our creations. And that's why I think mycelium is a great material to use. So our man-made materials aren't designed to last forever, and they fragment and break and are toxic in our seas and the earth, and they make their ways into our food systems and waterways. And mycelium is non-toxic, totally biodegradable, and a great alternative. And so from a well-being perspective, being surrounded by biophilic inspired and designed spaces, so bringing nature into our built environments, we can lower our heart rates, and it also, studies show that it can lower rates of depression and anxiety. So why not have decorative nature inspired shapes made from unharmful materials instead of other materials? Please could we go onto the table of my grown research? Yeah, perfect, thank you. So here we have a variety of different materials I've grown in different shapes. I was playing around with different grow times, different humidities, different substrates, the same mushroom, mycelium, so still the Ganoderma or the reishi. I made these during these processes, and different molds created and dried at different times with different wastes, as I said, agricultural wastes, to see how effective these processes were, which was really fun. Some are made from hemp, some are sawdust I collected, and some are cardboard, all with varying qualities. And these are accompanied by my urban fungariums. If you've got, yeah, perfect. This is so fun to see, because Veronica's been looking after them while I've been away, and they've really exploded over a week. So thank you so much, Veronica, because they really look pretty alien and crazy. So many different shapes have come out of these creations. So the urban fungariums are these stylish, almost fashionable gourmet mushroom growing systems for your home. I've got some table fungariums and some hanging fungariums. And they're hanging from some organic cotton macrame, which I made myself. And so the urban fungariums are designed to encourage a more positive perspective towards mushrooms, and to help facilitating growing mushrooms at home and cultivating them in the domestic environment. At the same time, providing education and enjoyment around fungi, and also still implementing that feeling of biophilic design and using biophilic design in your built environment, seeing as we're spending so much time at home after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, when will it end? So far too frequently, home growers and home mushroom growers have to resort to single-use plastic bags, and so they just go straight into landfill. And you need that for cleanliness reasons, but with these domes that I've blown, you just spray them with some alcohol, clean them up, and then start again your journey. But once you've created your urban fungarium, you just feed it with agricultural wastes or cardboard, which these oyster mushrooms are enjoying, and coffee grounds straight from the coffee machine, which these oysters really enjoy also. So studies have shown that gardening and cultivation can lower symptoms of anxiety and depression. And these orbs are decorative and reusable and educational. So you can see the mycelium colonizing beneath the ground, the kind of thing that they do in nature. So a great way to use the coffee grounds as well, and the waste cardboard that I mentioned, and an excellent source of nutrition, providing you with gourmet home-grown oyster mushrooms. So yeah, do you have another photo of them hanging, Veronica?
No, hang on, I can go back to...
Oh, that'll do. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, so that's there they are, 3 together, and hopefully during this exhibition they'll be growing at different rates, which is really fun, just fun for me to see. But yeah, that's about it really.
So, Rachel, those 2 are already threatening to take over. What should we do? Do we just let them go on growing?
Well, if you stop spraying them, then they'll stop growing, because they want humidity and water, but they look a good size now. So if you leave them, they'll just dry out and they'll just stay ornamental, which is great.
But if we wanted to carry on cultivating them,
you could harvest them.
Harvest them and more would grow?
Yeah, you'd harvest them and then you'd have your coffee grounds or add some cardboard and pop that in, and it would take over and do it again, pretty much.
Okay, well, I think we'll need detailed instructions from you, and I should think a lot of people might be interested in this system anyway. So you've certainly started us on something.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Rachel. It's been a real delight to have this work here. Another delight is our final speaker, Micah Baum, who you saw at the beginning helping Chris Drury install his work. Micah is another person who's completely experimental in a wonderful way. And many of us will know about kombucha, which you can buy in bottles and then you can make your own by cultivating the SCOBY. And as Micah says, most people regard SCOBY, which she will explain, as a waste product, but for her, it's a work of art and goes in so many directions. And I won't preempt what she has to say by talking any more about it. But Micah has a background, also has a background in design, actually in textiles and fashion. And during the pandemic ran a cutting hub making scrubs for the National Health in an incredibly big and efficient way. So over to Micah. You're now back doing art and photography.
Hello, can you hear me? I think so. Right, so on the window, first of all, it's great to be part of this amazing exhibition. Thank you very much. On the windowsill, you see jars of kombucha, and on the surface, there are SCOBYs growing. And a SCOBY is an acronym for symbiotic cultures of bacteria and yeast. So on the top of, Veronica, if you could go to the next picture so we get the detail, right. So on the left image, you see multiple layers of the SCOBY, which is also known as a biomat or a pellicle. And the white surface at the top with the little bubbles, that's basically a nice fresh layer of growth. And I just happen to have one here at hand to show you how strong this is. So I'm pulling as hard as I can and it's not breaking. So once it's dry, so the picture on the right is as it is sort of dried out to 50%, and as it is dry, you get this translucent material. Torch, oh no, that doesn't work. Anyway, and it is being used as an alternative to a leather, so as a vegan leather, also known as a bio leather. And if grown in perfect harmony, so in symbiosis, you get a perfectly flat or almost perfect you get beautiful imperfection, like Rachel talked about earlier. So you have lovely textures that could be used as material, but you also get occasional bubbles, which makes me think, could it be used as an alternative to bubble wrap if one figured out how these bubbles came to be about? However, I've been thinking a lot about the term of symbiosis. That's what interested me a lot. And on the next picture, we'll see a light box with some of my best examples of the opposite of a symbiosis. I'm thinking of the word and I can't think of it. Unharmonious, out of balance. And I'm interested, deliberately distorted these scobies by creating an imbalance between the bacteria and the yeast. And to me, this is very much an analogy for the times we're living in, for the imbalance in nature, our imbalanced relationship with nature and within society. Yeah, so we can move on to the next image, please, where we see a couple of examples as a close-up. I'm also interested in the second image where you see the mother culture. So every new batch is started, every new batch of kombucha, this is assuming you want to drink it, is started off with a mother culture, which is the inner circle, and then grows a new layer of SCOBY, and it grows to the periphery of the container. So you can get any shape and, well, probably not any size, but you could surely go very large. There's a challenge, who can grow the biggest SCOBY? So I'm interested in the fragility of nature, and some of these scobies that are off balance are very fragile to me to look at and to handle. They're very brittle. And well, obviously I'm thinking about the fragility of our natural world. Looking more in detail, I took to the microscope, and that on the next picture, you see me hanging the work, and you see microscopic images of SCOBY and or some substances that I took out of the jar. So I'm told these are not cells, these are filamenti. So I don't actually know yet what I'm exactly looking at, because I've been making the work and I've not had time to do all the research of my new findings. And if we go on to the next picture again, we get an overview, and we can see cellular structures, we can see images that mirror the textures that Ali talked about earlier, what did she call it? Mycelial grid structures. And we can also see like an open weave and weave structures and fabrics, and there are gaps, there are holes in the fabrics, in the fabric of society, in our relationship with nature. And I think, there's one more image. I'm kind of glancing ahead. Oh yeah, so these are close up. Okay, that's good to see. That's what I've been talking about just now. And I think there's one final image where you see my little cabinet of scobies, which are really the starting points of my experiments, playing with different dyes of beetroot and turmeric. So far, I've just done the very obvious ones, and playing with the distortion, achieving a distortion. And there's lots of potential. It's early days for this project. I think it's a potential minefield. Again, it's a great alternative to plastic. It's a health drink, the kombucha. Apparently you can eat the SCOBY, which I have not as yet done. And I think it has potential for many things, and it's a big open question basically. And
Thank you very much, Micah. And as you discovered at the opening when you were talking to a very distinguished scientist, he pointed out that you were revealing things that scientists had not yet understood themselves. So I think it's a really good example of how you can have symbiotic study through what you're discovering. And it's remarkable. You're breaking new ground. So thank you very much indeed, Micah. So as you've discovered from all the artists, everybody is breaking new ground. I mean, there's some marvelous books around about mushrooms at the moment, Merlin Sheldrake and Anna Lowenhaupt-Seen and so forth. But we're learning a whole new level of things from these artists about experimentation and where that might lead us to see this material in completely new and different ways. So congratulations to everybody. And we've really made a marvelous show for us from which we're learning and getting great enjoyment. So I'm going to hand back to you, Henry, to see if there's any comment we can share. I stopped sharing my screen.
Just making my microphone on. As I said on the YouTube channel, I imagine this has been full screen, so people haven't been able to see it. But do write any comments or questions in the YouTube chat, and I can forward them to the group here. Just while we're waiting for those questions to come in, because there is like a 30-second lag from real time, to start you off on something gentle to discuss together. Seeing as we've got people from Austria, the States, Germany, the UK, maybe you could all say, where has the best mushrooms?
Ooh.
No?
Do you need mushrooms to eat?
Yeah, I mean, you're interested in mushrooms and you'll pick them and eat them and work with them. I mean, is there? I always think there's such a huge bounty of them across the English countryside. Is that the same in other places, or do you collect mushrooms in different countries? Is that? That's just an open question to anyone. I didn't know if
there are in every environment there are special mushrooms. So you would find chanterelles, for example, which are amazing. In special forests with special soil conditions. So that's a tricky question. What is do you have favorite mushrooms to eat? Each of you? Do you have the mushroom that you prefer?
Chanterelle, definitely.
Chanterelle, okay.
Anything homegrown.
Chicken of the wood, anyone?
I've never found it.
I have a huge one in my garden.
All right.
It was sadly means the tree is dying, but
yeah, but if you harvest it, then the tree will last longer.
Oh,
if you pick down the fruit body, because that's where the spores come out. So if you take that away, then the tree will live longer.
Oh, that's good to know. I did indeed.
And it's delicious.
It is delicious.
If it's small, right? I kind of don't think of mushrooms in that commodity kind of way too. I'm kind of just in love with the way they are, but I do have a favorite one, a favorite family of mushrooms, because it's so amorphous, and it also grows sometimes to look like the tree that it lives with, and those are bolete mushrooms. And also I'm partial to them because in the New York and New Jersey area that I live along the coast and in the wetlands and the pine barrens, they're there year round, almost, except for maybe 2 or 3 months. So. But does anyone else have a favorite mushroom?
I like, boletus, I call them. Is that what you, yeah, bole. I like those very much. And I find blue staining ones, which are really good. You'd think they would be poisonous, but they're not.
The blue staining ones.
Yeah.
They collect a lot of cesium. You should be careful with those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are edible, but they collect a lot of radioactivity in the mycelium, in the underground.
Yeah, that's one of my questions too about mushrooms and thinking of mushrooms as a material or this being that is to be cleaning up after us. Like when it absorbs those kind of things, like what care are we giving mushrooms? You know, like with a lot of the new technology and ideas about, you know, it cleaning up after us or it solving our problems. Those are the kind of things I'm interested in.
Well, Nate,
too.
I think, Moira, nature has done a good job for the last 4 billion years. So nature knows, the planet knows how to clean up and start again.
But I'm referring to the idea of like, part of the trend about mushrooms is about using them to make things, or, you know, using them as like commodifying them. More than, because other than just its natural life of being part of a nonlinear constellation of doing its thing, you know.
Well, I think what Rachel does, sort of enforcing and also motivating people to grow their own mushrooms. It's also important because we have to really consider our environment is poisoned already, yeah, quite a bit compromised. So we need to find ways, like Rachel is following, or Myka, to integrate fungi in our urban places, no?
Living environments.
And they will follow. I mean, mushrooms are there. They're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. So
I think they found one that eats plastic.
Yeah. No, they know already. Yeah.
I have some in a jar, having a go at this type of mask, which we see everywhere at the moment.
All right.
It's slow, but I don't know if it's wishful thinking when I look very closly, but I think it's doing something.
Jackie Jones says, I made some portobello mushrooms, spore prints. They're still looking good 5 years on. And also, is Dust to Dust created directly onto the gallery wall? And if so, is it going to be a permanent feature? But I think maybe that's up to a Veronica question. Or maybe it's a Chris question, I'm not sure.
Chris, well, you painted it.
No, they get painted out. I'm not worth as much as Richard Long. And his is worth more than the building. So yeah, I think it's a gallery. You know, you move on.
Well, I am seriously thinking about it. I mean, the trouble is, I'm kind of committed to keeping the Richard Long, and to lose 2 walls in a small space is a bit. But I could cover it with a board, but if I can do it in a way that doesn't look clunky, then I might try that.
I'd quite like to make one on canvas, actually.
Yes, I mean, the other alternative might be to try and take it off the wall onto something. I'm embarrassed people have been telling me that I could do that by putting some damp something.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, that's quite good.
It's done with wall paintings, so I'm going to try. I'm not going to just get rid of it, Chris. I think.
Yeah, a big piece of wet paper might actually take it. It might be very beautiful.
Yes.
You could put some coffee grounds on it before you cover it up.
Yes.
Let it grow.
Yeah, we could do a combined work.
Yeah.
Wow.
Agricultural waste. Well, silt, which is what you use from the local quarry, that is one of the great waste products. Apparently, this one quarry has 20,000 tons of silt waste every year, but no one's found a use for. So if you can
beautiful
find a
colour.
use there. Sorry?
It's a beautiful colour.
It is, yeah, it's lovely, but you need to find a use for a whole lot of it.
Just
Yeah.
passing
Star
over.
produced pigment.
Yeah. I can't believe it can't be used for something, but apparently it has probably has no commercial worth so far.
Just
So yeah, one for you, Rachel.
Okay. Great. I'll just solve that problem.
Yes.
Just a couple more things from YouTube. A few hellos worth to mention for the people involved in the Zoom call who can't see the comments, who said it after the presentation started. Nick from Alexandra in Virginia. Henry, driver from Suffolk, who works with soil. Henry, if you're still listening, I hope you found this interesting. Rory in London. Hello from Marion in Dartington, Devon. And hello from Chris Stratton in London and Pamela from Manor Farm in Dorset. Also, Tessa Grundon says, I've experimented with making mushrooms, but look at work of fellow artist in present exhibition, Jamelia McEwen, who is showing her amazing mycelia sculptural structures after praxitides, shrine to dead gods. That might make more sense to some, I don't know. And from Marion's smiley, Rachel, did you make the homes for your oyster mushroom yourself? The homes.
So was the first question directed at me?
The first bit was general, but then the last bit was just, did you make the shells?
Right. I don't think I've heard of the first artist, but I would keenly look them up. The domes, yes, I did. I used a dome blower. So it's acrylic. It was meant to be reusable, so I went for a hardy acrylic, and it was clear so that you can see, from an educational perspective, you can see through the domes. But I cut some acrylic, I put it into an acrylic appropriate oven. It does work in a home oven too, but I wouldn't condone that. And then you put it into a dome blower. So it's a flat piece. It's a piece of kit that has clips, and you clip the flexible acrylic into the clips, clip, and then there's a button that you press, and there are tiny holes in a circle, and it forces cold air, and the cold air rises and pushes the acrylic up into a dome shape, and then you stop when you want it to be the shape and size of the dome that you want. That's why they're all different shapes. I did that deliberately because you can make them into the same shape with a guard, but I didn't want to do that, so I pressed them down with a bit of cloth while they were cooling, so they're a little bit wobblier than they, or sort of organic looking, which was the idea. But that's how I made them, and then I drilled holes in them, and then when you close the domes, when the mycelium is taking over and colonizing the substrate, may that be coffee ground or cardboard, it wants a sort of humid environment. And then when the majority of the substrate is white, you open it up, and the inflow of air and the oxygen circulating makes the mushrooms pin. And that's why I created those domes. They had the gap that was changeable so that they grew in that way.
Great. Also, Marion also asked, Moira, do people sit on or hold your pillow? I think she was just seeing either. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Henry. Did you ask? Is the person asking if people are sitting on the pillow?
Yeah, if people are sitting on the pillow in the show, if they're holding it, or the.
They can hold it. They can sit on it. They can throw it up on the couches there and squish it. Whatever they need to do or would like to do is fine.
It has a wonderful scent. It really, it really is strong. I was quite surprised. I thought it would have dried out of it and in transit or whatever, but it's still very much there.
It probably has plenty of mushroom spores in there too.
Marion says, amazing, thank you. I liked how your bio described you as a metaphorical mycelium by helping people, by things growing. Rory has just said, why shouldn't this show or a version of it tour around the country? I mean, I think that's a very good question, Rory. That's an open-ended question. Why shouldn't it, Veronica?
Well, because I haven't got staff to organise that.
Yeah.
And it was put together in the height of the pandemic, so it just was not feasible to think beyond here.
Yeah. No,
but now,
maybe Rory's offering.
Yeah, Rory, why not help us to put together a tour? I mean, it would be great. It would be very, very good to tour it, but it's a big undertaking for a shoestring organisation. But I'm happy to give it a go.
I think that kind of rounds up the questions in the chat, and hope everyone's asked what they hope to. If that's okay with you, I'll round up at that point and say really thank you to Veronica for kind of organising the exhibition firstly and bringing everyone together, and just to really confirm that the show is on until sorry, I'm looking at a screen here of all the people on the call. I'm not looking away. It's been a while since I've done this, so I should carry on looking this way. Yeah, the show's on to the 18th of December, and I'll post a link in for GroundWork Gallery and the exhibition information in the chat now. And so anyone can read more about the artists and see other images of the work that we've looked at tonight. Thank you also to all the artists themselves: Chris Drury from the UK, Alexandra Steiner from Austria, Moire Williams from the States, Micah Baum from UK and Germany, Alison Council from the UK, and Rachel Horton-Kitchlew from the UK. Just a few thank yous coming in the chat. Rory said sure. He'll say, yeah, Rory's going to take you on in London apparently, but
very good.
I'll let him get in contact about that. And for regular attendees of the Assembly Online events before, we did them every 2 weeks for over a year. I hope you've enjoyed being back on here again. There will be occasional events happening on the channel here, along with in-person events at the Assembly House starting too, which I'm excited to tell you about, but we can't tell you about them quite yet. If you're interested about hearing about future events, do join the mailing list. The link is in the chat. And I hope you all stay safe and well, and go foraging.
Thank you so much, Henry. Thank you very much for hosting this. It's been wonderful as ever. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.